algorithms, and a connoisseur of fine, albeit mass-produced, instant noodles. His life as a software engineer in a bustling metropolis was a symphony of caffeine, code, and the occasional existential dread. He certainly hadn't anticipated his grand exit from that existence would involve a rogue electrical surge, a spilled cup of lukewarm coffee, and a sudden, rather undignified plunge into what felt suspiciously like a cosmic washing machine. He awoke to the jarring sensation of rough stone against his cheek, the acrid scent of refuse assaulting his nostrils, and a persistent, high-pitched ringing in his ears. His first thought, ever the pragmatist, was that his apartment building must have finally succumbed to its questionable structural integrity. His second thought, as he tried to push himself up, was that his limbs felt wrong. Too short, too numerous, and distinctly furry. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced through the lingering haze of transmigration. He opened his eyes, not to the familiar gray of his apartment ceiling, but to a world rendered in startling, vibrant detail. Every speck of dust danced in the sunlight, every distant murmur of a conversation was a cacophony, and the aroma of a half-eaten fish head in a nearby alley was almost overwhelmingly delicious. He tried to speak, to articulate his horror, but only a pathetic, reedy "Moreau" escaped his throat. He was a cat, a small, scrawny, black cat with eyes that, he soon discovered in a puddle, were a startling, intelligent green. Li Wei, the brilliant engineer, was now Miao, the alley cat. The indignity was almost unbearable. He tried to recall the laws of physics, the principles of quantum mechanics, anything that could explain this absurdity. Nothing fit. He was trapped. His immediate existential crisis was abruptly interrupted by a low growl. From the shadows of a crumbling wall emerged a creature that resembled a badger, but with tusks that gleamed with an unnatural, spiritual light, and eyes that glowed with malevolent hunger. A low-level spiritual beast, his newly heightened senses screamed, and it saw him as an easy meal. Li Wei, or Miao, felt a surge of primal terror, a sensation far more potent than any deadline-induced anxiety. He scrambled, his tiny paws clumsy, his feline instincts still nascent. He was going to die, again, and this time, as cat food. As the spiritual badger lunged, a strange sensation bloomed in his chest. It wasn't fear, not entirely. It was a subtle vibration, an unseen current flowing through the very air, coalescing around him. He instinctively pushed back, and a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer of energy flared around his small form. The badger recoiled with a surprised yelp, its tusks missing him by a whisker. It was enough. The beast, sensing something unusual, hesitated, then slunk back into the shadows. Li Wei, panting, realized he had just tapped into qi. This was a cultivation world. And he, a cat, could cultivate. Days turned into a desperate struggle for survival. Miao learned the harsh realities of feline existence, the constant hunger, the territorial skirmishes, the indignity of chasing mice. His human intellect, while a boon for understanding the subtle flow of qi in the environment, was useless for opening cans or operating a smartphone. He was starving, his scrawny frame growing weaker, his initial burst of qi sensing ability fading with his strength. He needed help, or at least, a consistent food source. One afternoon, as he lay curled in a patch of sun-dappled dust, too weak to even swat at a fly, a shadow fell over him. He braced himself for another predator, but instead, a soft voice murmured, "Oh, you poor thing. You're so small." He looked up into the kind, worried eyes of a young woman. She was dressed in simple, azure robes, clearly an outer disciple of some sect, her aura a gentle, if somewhat weak, flow of spiritual energy. Her hands, surprisingly delicate, reached for him. He tensed, ready to bolt, but the scent of the dried fish she held out was too tempting. Survival instincts, honed by days of hunger, overruled his ingrained human aversion to being picked up by strangers. This was Lin Shui, an outer disciple of the Azure Cloud sect. She was not particularly talented, her cultivation stuck stubbornly at the early stages of qi condensation, but her heart was pure. She scooped him up, murmuring reassurances, and brought him back to her humble dwelling within the outer sect compounds. Miao, nestled in the warmth of her arms, felt a strange sense of relief. He had found his temporary sanctuary. He had found his unwitting patron. He had found his way back into the world of cultivation, albeit from a rather unconventional perspective. He was no longer just a cat, he was a spy, a secret agent, a feline mastermind in the making. And perhaps, just perhaps, he could even help this kind, struggling girl along the way. Life with Lin Shui was a significant upgrade from the alleyway. She provided a warm bed, regular meals, mostly scraps, but beggars couldn't be choosers, and, most importantly, access to spiritual resources. Lin Shui, despite her lack of talent, was diligent. She spent hours meditating, attempting to draw the ambient qi into her meridians, often with frustratingly little success. Miao, perched on a nearby shelf, would watch her with a critical, almost professional eye. His human intellect, combined with his new feline senses, allowed him to perceive qi not as a mystical force, but as a tangible energy stream. He could see the blockages in Lin Shui's meridians, the inefficiencies in her breathing techniques. It was like watching a junior developer write spaghetti code. It worked, barely, but it was a mess. He longed to correct her, to explain the optimal flow of energy, but his vocabulary was limited to meows, purrs, and the occasional hiss. His own cultivation, however, was a different story. He discovered that his feline body was uniquely suited for a different kind of cultivation. He didn't need complex meditation techniques, he simply needed to absorb qi directly. And the most direct source was the small stash of low-grade spiritual herbs Lin Shui kept hidden under her bed. One night, while Lin Shui slept the exhausted sleep of a struggling cultivator, Miao slipped under the bed. He found a withered stalk of spirit-gathering grass, a common herb used to aid qi condensation. He sniffed it, his whiskers twitching as he sensed the faint, pulsing energy within. He took a tentative bite. The taste was bitter, earthy, but the effect was immediate. A warm, tingling sensation spread from his stomach, flowing through his tiny meridians. He closed his eyes, his human mind visualizing the energy flow, guiding it, optimizing it. He treated his body like a complex circuit board, directing the qi to the areas that needed it most. The process was surprisingly efficient. Within an hour, the herb was consumed, and Miao felt a profound shift. His scrawny frame filled out slightly, his black fur gained a subtle, healthy sheen, and his senses sharpened further. He had achieved his first breakthrough. He had unlocked the first stage of what he decided to call the 9 Lives Sutra. With his newfound strength and clarity, Miao decided it was time to repay his debt to Lin Shui. He couldn't speak, but he could act. His interventions began subtly. When Lin Shui meditated, he would jump onto her lap, his purring a rhythmic vibration that, quite accidentally, resonated with the optimal frequency for qi absorption. He would nudge her arms or legs, seemingly seeking attention, but actually correcting her posture to align her meridians more efficiently. He also became a provider. His enhanced agility and senses made him a formidable hunter of small, low-level spiritual beasts that roamed the sect's outskirts. He would catch spirit mice, creatures infused with a tiny amount of qi, and leave them on Lin Shui's doorstep. She, initially horrified, soon realized the nutritional and spiritual value of these gifts. Her cultivation, previously stagnant, began to show signs of life. The spaghetti code was slowly being refactored. Lin Shui remained oblivious to the true nature of her feline companion. She attributed her sudden progress to her own hard work and perhaps a bit of luck. She would stroke Miao's fur, whispering her hopes and dreams, unaware that the cat purring in her lap was analyzing her qi flow and planning her next cultivation breakthrough. Miao, for his part, found a strange satisfaction in his role as a secret mentor. It was a different kind of problem-solving, a more hands-on approach to optimization. He was no longer just surviving, he was thriving, and he was bringing his unwitting patron along for the ride. Lin Shui's progress, while slow by inner sect standards, was remarkable for an outer disciple. Her qi condensation realm solidified, and a faint, almost imperceptible glow began to emanate from her dantian. This caught the attention of her peers, and more importantly, the sect elders. The annual Outer Sect tournament, a brutal proving ground for aspiring disciples, was approaching, and Lin Shui, once a perennial underdog, was now considered a dark horse. Miao, observing from his usual perch on Lin Shui's shoulder, understood the significance of the tournament. It was her chance to gain recognition, access to better resources, and perhaps even a coveted spot in the inner sect. He intensified his secret training regimen for her. He would subtly guide her during her practice sessions, batting at her hands to correct a stance, or letting out a sharp meow when her focus wavered. He even started bringing her more potent spiritual herbs, carefully selected from the sect's less guarded gardens, leaving them strategically placed for her to discover. Lin Shui, feeling a surge of confidence she hadn't known before, entered the tournament. The initial rounds were a blur of basic qi techniques and clumsy sparring. Miao, hidden in the folds of her robes, watched with a critical eye. He had to admit, her combat instincts were still rather pedestrian. But his interventions were precise. During one match, when her opponent, a hulking brute, was about to land a decisive blow, Miao, with a burst of feline speed, darted out and, accidentally, tripped the brute, sending him sprawling. Lin Shui, seizing the unexpected opening, delivered a clean strike, winning the round. Another time, facing a disciple who relied heavily on illusionary techniques, Miao's heightened senses allowed him to perceive the subtle distortions in qi flow. He would let out a series of sharp, agitated meows, directing Lin Shui's attention to the true location of her opponent, allowing her to break through the illusion. The crowd, and even some of the junior elders, began to whisper about Lin Shui's lucky cat, a charming mascot that seemed to bring her uncanny fortune. As Lin Shui advanced, her opponents grew stronger, and their tactics dirtier. In the semi-finals, she faced a notoriously arrogant inner sect disciple, a young man named Feng who had been temporarily demoted to the outer sect for insubordination. Feng, furious at having to compete with inferior disciples, decided to make an example of Lin Shui. He began to subtly disrupt her qi flow with a forbidden technique, a slow, insidious drain that would leave her weakened and vulnerable. Miao felt the malicious qi ripple through Lin Shui's meridians. This was no longer a game. This was a direct threat. His human mind screamed for a keyboard, for a debug console, for a way to rewrite the code of this unfair fight. But he was a cat. A cat with a rapidly cultivating dantian and a growing understanding of the world's spiritual laws. With a guttural growl that surprised even himself, Miao leapt from Lin Shui's shoulder. He landed silently on the arena floor, his black fur bristling, his green eyes glowing with an intensity that belied his small size. He focused his blighted qi, not on attack, but on disruption. He unleashed a concentrated burst of pure, unadulterated spiritual energy, a chaotic wave that slammed into Feng's carefully constructed qi manipulation. The forbidden technique backfired spectacularly, sending a jolt of pain through Feng, disrupting his concentration, and causing him to stumble. The entire arena fell silent. A mere cat had just interfered in a high-level cultivation match, and not just interfered, but actively disrupted a cultivator's qi. Elder Zhao, a stern, traditional elder of the Azure Cloud Sect, who had been observing the matches with a critical eye, narrowed his gaze. He had noticed the cat's unusual presence, its uncanny ability to be in the right place at the right time. But this was beyond mere luck. Feng, recovering from the shock, roared in fury, "That cursed beast! Kill it!" He lunged at Miao, his hand crackling with destructive qi. But before he could strike, Elder Zhao's voice boomed across the arena, laced with an undeniable authority. "Stop! No one touches that cat!" Elder Zhao descended from the viewing platform, his eyes fixed on Miao. He knelt, his ancient gaze piercing, as if trying to see into the very soul of the small feline. He reached out a hand, not to strike, but to observe. Miao, for his part, met the elder's gaze with an unnerving calm, his green eyes holding a depth of intelligence that no ordinary animal possessed. The elder's spiritual sense swept over Miao, and he felt a jolt. A powerful, yet strangely familiar, spiritual signature. It was qi, but unlike any he had ever encountered in a beast. It was refined, controlled, and possessed a unique, almost systematic quality. "This is no ordinary cat," Elder Zhao murmured, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and suspicion. This is a cultivating spiritual beast. And a highly advanced one at that." He looked at Lin Shui, who stood dumbfounded, then back at Miao. "Young disciple, this cat, it has been assisting you, hasn't it?" Lin Shui, still reeling from the events, could only nod mutely. The secret was out. Miao, the unassuming alley cat, was a spiritual anomaly, a cultivating prodigy in feline form. Elder Zhao, a man of tradition, initially considered the implications with a frown. A beast interfering in human cultivation was unheard of, almost sacrilegious. But then, he remembered the subtle improvements in Lin Shui's technique, the uncanny luck, the sudden burst of power that had just disrupted Feng's forbidden art. This was not chaos, this was calculated, intelligent intervention. "Remarkable," Elder Zhao finally declared, a rare smile gracing his lips. "A true spiritual companion. Lin Shui, you have proven yourself not just in combat, but in your compassion and your unwitting ability to attract such a unique talent. I, Elder Zhao, formally invite you both to the inner sect. And as for you, little one," he said, looking directly at Miao, "we have much to discuss about your unique cultivation path." The journey of Li Wei, the software engineer, as Miao the cat, was just beginning. The 9 lives of Master Miao were about to truly unfold, spectacularly unfold. The revelation and conclusion. Elder Zhao's invitation to the inner sect was a seismic shift in Lin Shui's life, and by extension, Miao's. The inner sect was a realm of vastly superior resources, more potent spiritual herbs, and access to ancient cultivation techniques. For Miao, it was like upgrading from a dial-up connection to fiber optics. He now had a veritable treasure trove of qi-rich materials to experiment with, and a more stable environment to further his unique cultivation. His discussions with Elder Zhao were, of course, one-sided affairs, conducted through a series of discerning glances, subtle head tilts, and the occasional, perfectly timed purr. Yet, Elder Zhao, a man of profound wisdom and an unexpected openness to the unconventional, seemed to understand. He provided Miao with a dedicated space, a small, sun-drenched room filled with various spiritual plants and artifacts, ostensibly for observational study. In reality, it was Miao's personal cultivation chamber, a place where he could analyze, optimize, and absorb qi without drawing undue attention. Miao's engineering mind reveled in the new challenges. He began to categorize spiritual herbs by their qi composition, mapping out their energetic pathways within his feline body. He discovered that by manipulating his internal qi flow, he could mimic certain human cultivation techniques, albeit in a highly condensed and efficient manner. His 9 Lives Sutra progressed steadily. Each breakthrough, marked by a subtle shift in his first sheen or a deeper glow in his eyes, granted him not just increased power, but also a more profound understanding of the world's spiritual mechanics. Lin Shui, under Miao's continued, secret tutelage, blossomed. Her cultivation soared, her understanding of qi deepened, and her confidence blossomed. She became a respected inner disciple, her gentle nature now tempered with a quiet strength. She still believed Miao was her lucky cat, a spiritual companion who brought her good fortune, and she cherished him deeply. She would often find him napping on a rare spiritual herb, purring contentedly, unaware that he was absorbing its essence and refining his own dantian. One day, as Lin Shui prepared for a crucial breakthrough into the foundation establishment realm, she found Miao sitting by her meditation mat, his green eyes unusually serious. He nudged a small, ancient-looking scroll towards her with his nose. It was a fragment of a forgotten qi circulation technique, one he had discovered in the sect's ancient library, subtly altering its placement for her to find. Lin Shui, intrigued, studied it. Its principles were complex, but strangely intuitive, as if designed for her specific constitution. With Miao's silent guidance, she successfully achieved her breakthrough, her aura radiating with newfound power. As for Li Wei, the cynical software engineer, he was slowly fading, replaced by Miao, the cultivating cat. The indignity of his feline form had long since given way to a profound appreciation for its unique advantages. The agility, the stealth, the heightened senses, the ability to absorb qi through osmosis. These were powers he could never have dreamed of in his human life. He still missed human conversation, the internet, and instant noodles, but the thrill of cultivation, the systematic unraveling of spiritual mysteries, had become his new obsession. He may have been a cat, but he was a cat with a human intellect, a unique cultivation path, and a growing legend. The 9 lives of Master Miao were just beginning, and with each life, he planned to climb higher, to unravel more secrets, and perhaps, one day, to achieve true immortality, one nap, one stolen spiritual herb, and one perfectly timed Miao at a time. The cultivation world had no idea what kind of cat it had adopted.